When we talk about grown man decisions, we have to talk about sex and the decisions that we make concerning sex because a lot of us are still making little boy decisions. Let's talk about that. In 1982, Marvin Gaye put out a song called Sexual Healing. A lot of you remember that song. A lot of you familiar with it. As a matter of fact, it's probably playing in your head right now. Now, the thing about music back in the day is we had good love music, in my opinion. And I know everyone would probably say that from their era, but I believe we had really good music, right? I don't much listen to the radio today because I prefer old school music, right? And it's not, when you talk about love music and music about sex, because we're talking about sex in this particular episode, but it's not that the songs were innocent, so to speak, but the messages were hidden. And maybe it was hidden just for children, because like when I heard Part-Time Lover by Stevie Wonder as a kid, I had no idea he was talking about cheating. But as an adult, when I listened to it, it was pretty obvious. Right? Today's music is more explicit and in your face. When it came to music about sex back in the day, you had songs like Teddy Pendergrass, "Turn Off the Lights," right? You had Babyface singing, "You got the you got that whip appeal," right? Now, there are a lot of songs from back in the day that was about sex, but we had no idea that they were about sex. Like the two that I just named. Well, "Turn Off the Lights," that's pretty obvious. I didn't know that "Whip Appeal" was about sex. I found that out later. When it first came out, I didn't know that. But there are a lot of songs that are about sex that I'm only recently finding out that that the song is talking about sex. For example, it's only been a couple of years when I realized that the Isley Brothers' "It's Your Thing" is about sex. He says, "It's your thing. Do what you want to do. I can't tell you who to sock it to." And then he says, "If you want me to love you, maybe I will. Believe me, woman, it ain't no big deal. You need love just like I do. Makes no difference who you give your thing to." He ain't talking about love, he's talking about sex. How about "Ring My Bell"? Y'all remember Anita Ward, "Ring My Bell"? You can ring my bell. As a kid, that was one of my favorite songs. Like in maybe the 80s. I had no idea the song was about sex until as an adult, I listened to the words. Can I just give you a little part of how she started? I can't play it here on YouTube, but it says, she said, "I'm glad you're home. So now did you really miss me? I guess you did by the look in your eyes. Now sit back and relax while I put away the dishes. And then you and me can rock-a-bye. You can ring my bell. Ring my bell." I had to sing it like it's one of my favorite songs. But I didn't know that was about sex. Right? Now, there's a lot of them. But the one that really got me, was by the Jones Sisters when they say, you heard the song, "You Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else"? I thought that song was about love. I thought they were saying, if you keep treating me this way, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go find me somebody else. But that's not what the song is about. The song says, "You going to make me love somebody else if you keep on treating me the way you do." Okay? Well, that don't sound like sex. Okay, here's what she says. Then it says, how'd it go? Let me think. I done brought this up now. Listen. Oh, "I ain't did nothing to you. I ain't did nothing to you." Right? I just love you with my heart and soul. Every time I need some loving, why do you turn cold? And I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean turn cold? You need some loving. Like love ain't, what are you talking about? And then it says, she say, "I know you need love just like I do." And then she say, "If you ain't loving me, then who in the world you loving? Tell me if you don't want me around." And then when you get to the second verse, it's like, oh, basically she's saying, if you ain't giving it to me, then who you giving it to? You keep playing these games and I'm gonna be gone. But that wasn't like in your face explicit. Like that message ain't just, I just found that out and I'm not like, I'm kind of smart, right? But I didn't know that that's what they was talking about. See, that's the thing about old school music. Sex was communicated as an act of loving, right? It wasn't explicit like it is today. Marvin Gaye said, "Get up, get up, get up. Let's make love tonight." Right? He said, "Let's make love tonight." Tank says, "When we like what?" Like he actually says that in the song. Can we have some kind of mystery? That's a big difference between "let's make love tonight" and "can we," four-letter word. As a matter of fact, speaking of lovemaking, when was the last time you heard somebody talk about lovemaking? Right? When's the last time? Some of you listen or watching right now might be thinking, what does he mean by lovemaking? I ain't never heard of that. Right? So there was a time when sex meant something about the relationship. Right? But here's the thing. Most people who've actually heard of the term lovemaking, they don't even understand what it means either, right? Most people from back in my day, they think lovemaking means having sex in slow motion. That's not making love, right? Sex is sex. Hard, soft, fast, slow. How you do the intercourse part is not what makes it lovemaking. Lovemaking is more about the relationship than the orgasm. Yeah, lovemaking is more about the relationship than the orgasm. Lovemaking emphasizes the deep emotional connection and shared bond between lovers. In other words, making love is sex plus connection. Sexual gratification that is not associated with human connection leads to deviant behavior. All right, I'm gonna say that again. Sexual gratification that is not associated with human connection leads to deviant behavior, which is why we live in such a sexually deviant culture, right? Deviant means departing from usual or accepted standards, right? Especially in social and sexual behavior. But when I say deviant here, I'm not talking about straying away from culture's accepted standards. I'm talking about straying away from God's standards. Sex is God's idea. Not only is sex God's idea, but he created it for a purpose. What was the purpose? Exclusively for marriage. Now, I don't say that. I promise you, I'm not saying that to judge anybody. But if you feel judged, that's between you and God, right? But he created sex exclusively for marriage. And although the phrase lovemaking is not mentioned in the Bible, I am convinced that lovemaking, the way I just described it, is what God had in mind when he created sex. See, sex is meant to be shared between a husband and a wife with a deep emotional connection. It helps strengthen our bond. But today, we don't use sex as a bonding agent. We use sex as a self-gratifying tool. And we usually use it to cover up all kinds of hurt, shame, and emptiness. Right? God created it as a gift, but we've made it a product to sell. That's why the porn industry is a billion-dollar industry, right? And I hope you can see it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that things are getting progressively worse, right? The complaint I hear most often from single women is that, the men who want to date them, they meet a man, first thing he want to do is have sex. Like, sex is the only thing that's on their mind, right? Sex isn't sacred anymore. And to be honest, I wonder, why do people get hurt and angry when their partner cheats? Why are you upset? Right? I mean, like seriously, like if in your relationship you treat sex like a product instead of treating it like a precious and special gift that it is, then why are you mad when they give it to somebody else? It's because you know it's special, even though you don't treat it like it's special, right? And I'm not saying be okay with cheating. I'm saying give sex the respect that it requires in order for it to do what God designed it to do. That's what I'm saying, right? Because here's the thing. Doing love, sex, and relationships however you want to do it, that hasn't helped your life be better. Doing things different than how God designed them to work has not made life better on the planet. And if you're like me, you may have grown up in church. So I grew up in church, right? You may have grown up in church where they emphasize doing life God's way, right? But the reason they told you that was so that you won't go to hell. But the truth is, you living life the way God has designed it to be lived, you living life in a way that pleases God, is less about going to hell and more about keeping hell from coming to you, right? And what I found is that God's way of doing life in all areas, including sex, God's way of doing life is better than my way. Like I didn't hit the wall so many times. I'm like, Lord, listen, Ted, you just tell me what to do and which way to go, right? I'm just going to follow your word. Like David said, before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I keep your word, right? When I do love and life God's way, I have more peace. I have more success. I feel more connected, right? Fellas, we need to heal our sexual beliefs and inclinations so that we can experience real sexual healing. What I mean by real sexual healing, like if we can heal the junk, the mindsets that we have or whatever, then we can truly experience sex the way God designed it in marriage, and it can be healing for us. That's what I'm talking about. So then we can really have what Marvin Gaye talked about, right? Remember, lovemaking is not only about intercourse. Lovemaking is hindered by us being disconnected because it needs the connection piece. Now, sometimes lovemaking can spark the connection, but in general, without an emotional connection, lovemaking ain't happening. It's not gonna happen, right? You can still have sex, but hear me when I tell you, the best sex is the love kind, or should I say the love-making kind. That's the best kind of sex, the love-making kind, right? So here's something you may not know. Here's something you may not know about God's design for lovemaking. As a husband, when it comes to sex, your focus should be pleasing your wife, not her pleasing you. I know I'm gonna rewind it. I'm gonna say that again because I know that hits you kind of like you don't like that. I understand. The way God designed sex to happen, your focus, husband, should be on your wife's pleasure, not yours. And I know you probably think I'm making that up, right? I'm not. It's in the Bible. 1 Corinthians 7:3 says this: the husband should fulfill his wife's sexual needs, and the wife should fulfill her husband's sexual needs, right? See, this paints a picture of giving as opposed to receiving. And if you're familiar with the way God's systems work, the focus is always more on giving than receiving. Jesus himself said it's more blessed to give than receive. But now if we go back to Marvin Gaye's when we're talking about the sexual healing, here's what he said. One of the lines in his song, he says, "When I get that feeling, I want sexual healing." Notice his focus. He says, "When I get that feeling, I want sexual healing." All right? See, his focus is his desire, and that is how most of us approach sex. Let me tell you flat out, so you'll know. There's no what they say, pull no punches. Selfish sex is demonic. Yeah, selfish sex is demonic. Why do I say that? I don't call everything demonic. Like I have a certain criteria for what I call like demonic. I don't think everything on the planet is demonic, but selfish sex, that's demonic. Why? Because so there are some things that do more damage to us humans than others. All right. So think about this. So Satan is a God wannabe. So he copies everything that God does. But when he copies it, he twists it. And then he hides the fact that what he is offering is destructive for the human being. Right? For example, I'll give you an example. Love. Right? Love is essential for our well-being. The Bible even says that God is love. Like, love is the most powerful thing in the world. But people pleasing is a destructive imitation of love. Instead of filling you up, it leaves you feeling empty. See, sacrificial love is about sacrificial giving for the benefit of the other. People pleasing is selfish giving for the approval of others. And if you're not careful, people pleasing looks like love, but it is destructive. That's demonic. So, I want another one? Same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriage is demonic. And I'm not even talking about because they're gay or lesbian. I'm just talking about calling it, that's destructive. That is demonic. Why? Because it is an attack on the first institution God created. It is an attack on the foundation of life, and it is an attack on the image of God in the earth. The image that marriage is supposed to represent. Same-sex marriage is an attack on that. But watch this. It is masked as equal rights. It's not an equal rights issue, right? This is how Satan takes things and twists them for our destruction, and sex is no different. Sex is the bonding agent, exclusively reserved for marriage, right? But the enemy has made you believe that it's okay to do it with whoever and whenever you desire. But listen, fellas, when I tell you, your sex, just like your love, is supposed to be about your wife. It's not supposed to be about you, but we make sex about me and my gratification. That's destructive. As you can see in the world, like a lot of our crimes are sex crimes. You got, I'm not going to go into all of that, but you seeking your own sexual gratification, and that's your soul, that's how you operate. I'm telling you, that's destructive. But here's the question. How do we get this way? Like, how do we get so selfish in our sexual behavior? Well, I can tell you. So I believe there we could point to a lot of things that has contributed to the issue, but I believe one of the biggest contributors to the way we view sex and our sexual issues, especially as men, I think the biggest contributor is childhood. Yeah. The lack of nurturing and actually raising instead of just letting them grow up, the actual act of raising children, because we don't raise children. The lack of raising children, the lack of being nurturing has caused a lot of us to show up to adulthood love deficient. Being love deficient makes you vulnerable to the lies of culture. Like, it's your thing, do what you want to do. That's a lie, right? So instead of connecting with other humans in a healthy way, because you got these holes in your soul, you're love deficient, which means you got holes in your soul. You got gaps that you didn't get filled in as a child, and now you're on the planet walking around, and the culture is feeding you, right? So when life hurts, instead of connecting in a healthy way to other humans, you try to get connection from an object like alcohol or pornography. This then is the beginning of addiction. Yeah, when life hurts, but you don't know how to connect with another human for comfort, so then you turn to something that makes you feel good in the moment, you are in danger of becoming addicted. Once you're addicted, and in our case, let's say pornography. Once you're addicted to pornography, because we're talking about sex, once you're addicted to pornography, you become more and more disconnected and isolated from people, which then increases your need to feel good. And then it just goes on. So it's like it perpetuates itself. And so the addiction gets worse. You get further away from connection, which makes the addiction worse. You feel me? And it's a vicious cycle, but only you can break it. And fellas, let me tell you, whether you believe you're addicted to porn or not, whether you watch porn every day or you watch it a few times a year, it's harming your marriage and your life. It's harming you. Now, what if you said, what if you don't have a porn addiction? Like, what if I don't have a porn issue? I don't even watch porn. Like, that ain't my thing. Okay, cool. But are you emotionally immature? Because if you're emotionally immature, then you're gonna have a selfish mindset. The reason that the porn industry is a $1 billion industry is because of our selfish attitudes towards sex. You want to know what else is selfish? I didn't think I was going to talk about this, but you know what else is selfish? Masturbation. Yeah, it's someone asked me if I believe that masturbation is a sin. I said yes. And the reason that I believe masturbation is a sin, even though the Bible does not explicitly say that, the reason I believe that masturbation is a sin is because God designed your body, including your penis, for her, not just for you. God gave you a penis, like that's where the waste leaves your body. But the enjoyment of the penis, that's for your wife. It ain't for you. And here's how he set it up. When you give it to her, you receive an explosion at the end. But masturbating is just about the explosion, and it's self-serving, right? Your wife don't get any benefit out of that, right? So, fellas, if we want to be the men that our women need, then if we want to be the men that our women need and trust and depend on, we have to change the way we view and handle sex. We got to make grown man decisions about our sex life, right? And some of you may need therapy to get the help you need to get over some strongholds, but do what you need to do to become the man you need to become for her, right? Your life is not just about you. Stop chasing instant gratification. Heal what's broken so that you can learn to love, because you cannot love effectively with all that brokenness in there, with all that selfishness, with all that childhood immaturity, that emotional immaturity. You're not going to be able to love effectively. Okay? So get the help you need, heal that stuff so that we can if we can strengthen our marriages. That's why I'm doing this whole Manhood Monday. If we can strengthen our marriages, we can then strengthen our families. If we strengthen our families, then we can strengthen our neighborhoods, and then society, and then the world. But guess what? Fellas, it starts with you. It starts with you. If you watch Kirk Franklin's thing last week, I made a video about it, and I said, like, if we are going to, if the plight of man, male, us men, if our plight on the planet is going to change, we're going to have to do it. The women and children can't do it. We got to make a decision. Hey, I'm not going to keep living this way. And then I believe the women and children will follow. I didn't even talk about molestation and all those kind of things that put us on the wrong track to misunderstanding love. I didn't even talk about that, right? But that's another issue. Okay. Now, next week I want to do a part 2. I'm gonna do a part 2 to this, right? But next week I'm gonna talk about some specific things you can do in your marriage to make your sex life better with your wife. All right, that's what I want to do. Now, excuse me, if you have any questions or concerns, I guess you have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll respond. Like because I don't want to confuse people. But if you got questions, you want to know something, leave it and leave a comment, and I'll respond. Now, last thing, if this information was helpful for you, I ask that you like the video, and I ask that you share it with someone you care about. Okay? All right. So until next time, y'all take care.